Mohandas Gandhi, the original proponent of the fabric, once said, Khadi is not fashion, it is a value. Kamal Hassan, a superstar actor and a man with unbridled passion for all things Gandhi, would seem to disagree in nuance because he believes, precisely because Khadi is a value, it also ought to be fashion. As the 65-year-old actor, now in his 62nd year as an artist, prepares to launch his own khadi based fashion line, House of Khaddar, he thinks it is more than time for this versatile all weather fabric to be projected around the world through his fashion line and with it carry the story of Gandhi's values. The artist, whose name means a smiling lotus, as in Kamal for lotus and Hassan for smile, spoke to Mayank Chhaya report from Chennai about his plans to launch House of Khaddar out of Chicago soon. He is also launching a fragrance along with it. Between the fabric and the olfactory, Kamal Hassan spoke about his unabashed devotion to Gandhi, his reluctance to pursue Hindi cinema more vigorously, and his aspirations as a national politician. This year, incidentally, also happens to be the 40th anniversary of Kamal Hassan's blockbuster Hindi movie Ek Duje Ke Liye. Kamal Hassan. In order to pace my interview, I started by asking Kamal Hassan how much time he had, and he straightaway displayed a sharp sense of humor.
That's my question. I'm 66.
I'm 60, so.
So I always keep asking me that question every day. So we have little time. So let's start our conversation and be glad that we started it at all.
That's true. So I think I might have to wait for a couple of them, if you don't mind. I think.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, you may not remember, but I'm pretty certain you won't remember. I interviewed you in 1992 for a newspaper called India Abroad, which was published from New York. You were attending the screening of The Unforgiven.
Oh, yes, yes.
This was on Vigyan Bhavan. There was a film festival on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time. I'm sure you meet.
I'm a great fan of, I'm a film buff, and now I've become many other buffs.
But you're sporting that distinguished silver, or is it part of your makeup?
Yeah, silver is a part of my chemical constituent. Silver nitrate is what makes films. So silver,
that's hilarious.
Silver is part of my being. As they say, it runs in my blood.
And come to think about it, this is your 61st year, so it's run that long.
62nd, actually, sir.
62nd?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. No, it's extraordinary. There are not too many who have a career spanning that much.
I have nobody to thank but the audience, not the talent, not even my gurus. They've been kind. My gurus only taught me what they can, but the audience elevated me to another level, which I'm still trying to find the meaning, but it doesn't matter. Never look the gift horse in the mouth.
Mr. Hassan, what was your first introduction to Khadi? Was it in the historical context of Gandhi and the independence movement, or you just generally had that awareness?
I was born into Khadi. I literally on Khadi, in the sense, my father held me in his lap the first time, and he never wore anything but Khadi till he died.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a great Gandhi admirer and open-minded man, and I was a late child. I was a surprise to myself and him. And I'm glad that I was the children of such parents, of such nobility. When I say nobility, I don't mean connecting it to royalty or caste or community. They were noble people who were simple, frugal, and the idea of khadi was always with me. And when my father was on his deathbed, I felt guilty because anybody who came to my house always asked, "Where's the boss?" to him. He'll be sitting in an uncanny position in the veranda, not usually where bosses sit. He'll be sitting on the steps, reading a newspaper with the dhoti, that very typical of congressmen of that time. So they always were looking for the boss, who should be better looking than him.
I see.
And he never took umbrage, and he always said, "Which boss? My first son, second son, or the third son?" It happened to him even after the third son was born, and I became a film star. And people always thought he was a caretaker in the house, but he didn't care. It's so strange. He slept outside the house. He never slept inside air-conditioned or other rooms. He preferred to sleep outside. We had to cajole him as he grew older to sleep inside the house. That's the kind of father I had. So you can understand my commitment to Gandhi, Khadi, and nonviolence.
Indeed, indeed. You know, it's not often understood by the new generation of Indians how intrinsic a fabric, namely khadi, was to the country's freedom struggle. Is it also your intention through this launch to bring about the...
Yeah, my intention is to say that we made history. Now we'll do business. That's what Britain was doing with our calico, our cotton,
right,
or Egyptian cotton. Cotton has a great history of so many unjust and just things that happened. You have slaves who were created because of cotton.
right.
And I belong to a history where freedom was born because of cotton. I'm so proud.
That's wonderful.
Freedom. Yeah. And the civil disobedience movement also had the khadi thread running through the weave.
Maybe unintentionally so, you just gave me the tagline of your product, perhaps, that we have done history, now it's time to make business, something along those lines.
Thank you. We've made history, and now it's time to do business. And we are proud to do it with Mr. Patel, who's close to the Gandhi land.
Yeah, in fact, I was born not too far from that. I'm also from Gujarat. So there are all three Gujaratis here right now.
See, we are Samdis now. I'll tell you why. Because Gandhiji married into a South Indian family. Not he, but his children married into the South Indian family. So he was truly trying to unite the country.
Indeed, indeed.
Weave the country together. He's the biggest weaver that I have known in my life.
How lovely. How lovely. In fact, you will not run out of these interesting metaphors when you talk about weaving and Gandhi and Khadi and the country, right?
Yeah, all my metaphors I learned from Mr. Gandhi and my father.
You know, this aspect of yours, at least for me personally, I have not known to this extent that you are so deeply immersed into it. And I went to school in Ahmedabad where Khadi was the mandatory uniform. And I've grown up like you thinking that there is no greater fabric. That brings me to...
No, when you say it's mandatory, you want to rebel. That is Gandhi.
True.
There's nothing mandatory. You do what you want. That's why I said in our tagline which is our tagline, would say fashion is being civil yet disobedient.
That's fantastic. Let me compliment you. It's really a terrific line. Whoever wrote it, you wrote it. I don't know who did.
I did.
Oh,
I came up with a copy. I'm an understudy of Mr. Gandhi without his permission. So I've read all his lines and admired him.
I mean, the man was
I'm a great captive fan.
These are aspects that people don't know about you, because I think your superstardom looms so much over these aspects. I'm so glad that we are talking.
I'm glad that you use the word loom. Looming larger still brings about loom.
I'm not going to escape puns today, right?
Yeah.
Can I add something? My dad has been wearing khadi all his life, and he never enforced on us. So I understand what Mr. KG is saying.
Yeah, indeed. No, that being a school, there it was required that people wear khadi. So to bring it down a little more to specific, why Chicago for the launch and not Chennai, for instance?
Why not when Vivekananda can choose Chicago, why can't Kamal Hassan choose Chicago? But the two important facts, I wanted to start from the West.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as an Indian revolution starting, mercantile revolution,
right,
starting from the West. And we are not in the fighting mode. We are nonviolent. Mercantile business means cooperation.
Right.
And Gandhi ji is about 200 years ahead of his time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And he can teach a few lessons to Wall Street and Arabia, which wants to now mingle with the world. And he already extended the hand with the Khilafat movement.
Right.
So he is a man who thinks how today's Arabia will think is right, unbelievable. I don't want to become. I don't want to turn this into a Gandhi Mela. Rather, Khadi Mela would be more.
You won't find any resistance from me, because I have the same level of admiration for him. So, the sense of smell, or the olfactory, is a fundamental sense. What are your most cherished fragrances personally?
I'm a rationalist. Let me introduce myself from the reverse end of what I became. I'll append what began my life. We came head first. So we have to sometimes straighten out. And that's when I became rational. But till 11, for me, prayer was very important. And I belong to a Vaishnavite family who sort of edged me on and encouraged me into prayer. So I think they overdid it, because like all obese children, I was overfed with religion. And at 4, at 4, I used to be sitting in front of God for 1 hour. And it gradually increased. By the time I was 6, I was doing 2 hours a day in front of God, chanting prayers. Mm-hmm. They had teachers teaching me the sloks, and we call it slogam in Tamil. Right. And that's how I got my first, I wrapped my tongue around the North Indian languages. Otherwise, I was a Dravidian boy. And those things I remember till 11. And those moments are precious memory and honest memories. I have a lot of contention and criticism towards spirituality and other things that exploit people, like imperialism. Also, religion has been exploiting people. I'm against both. Yet, my early primal memories are of that moment of prayer.
I see.
So what I think as very important can come with or without religion. That is sanctum sanctorum,
Right.
garbhagraha, as they call it in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
And it's deep inside your mind. And to quote my favorite man, not my father, but my great-grandfather, Mr. Gandhi, it is to say, I will not let anyone walk across my mind with a dirty feet.
That's fabulous, yes.
Yes, he is a great copywriter. I wish I had him today to write my movie lines because he could sort of spin lines up nowhere.
He has no peers. Gandhi has no peers when it comes to pithy lines.
Yes. One of the greatest writers India has had. Bernard Shaw wrote about 15,000 pages, published 15,000 pages. Gandhiji's published pages are 60,000.
Right.
And there are young men trying to beat that record, but I'm happy that he set that record. And we represent that history, that spirit. And people sometimes accused him of being a Baniya.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing at all.
Now I've joined the family.
Fragrances have a long history, sometimes even centuries of having been around, and they have remarkable associations in people's mind. Given your penchant for perfection, what would you like your fragrance to accomplish?
I want them to remember. That's why the line is called memoir.
Right.
Memoir, something you write from your memories.
Right.
And Roman gladiators left their scent for ladies of noble birth to wear as a scent. They left their sweat and they mixed it into that. Men who especially defeated gladiators sort of gave off pheromones, which was about life-giving, and they added it to the concoction. The history of perfumery and olfactory senses goes way back to when we were bipeds and also not bipeds yet. The olfactory sense is what led us to the road from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And then from war to agriculture.
Right.
We didn't like the smell of blood. So much blood and decay around us. We stopped being cannibals.
Right.
So we still have all those layers in us. So nostalgia tells us our history and makes us proud, sometimes makes us sad. But we like all those emotions.
Right.
We want sadness. Sometimes they want to cry it out. And I think olfactory senses can give you that. Like you hold your child's underwear
Or a
little child.
Right.
Or your mother's sari. I always, after brushing my teeth, I always wipe my face in my mother's sari, pallu, as they call it, as the extension from the shoulder. And I always wiped my face, and she was very upset, especially on the days when she was going out to a special occasion like a marriage, because she used to wear silk.
Mm-hmm.
And when you wet silk, it takes time for it to dry. So she'll be very angry. But I remember silk, sweat, water, cooking. These are all the memories. And when I went into prayer to my then gods, I was so happy in that environment. It gave me peace. It's a good day, a good way to begin a day.
You know,
And
you have,
that's why I called it Sanctum Sanctorum. And believe me, I'm not a believer of God.
right. You know, you rightly pointed out how remarkably versatile khadi is in all weather conditions.
Yes.
Why do you think fashion labels across the world haven't really come to terms with that, or they don't know, or they don't particularly care? And is it one of your objectives to change with your own?
I'm glad. I only thank them for their ignorance because it is left to me now to touch upon a fortune, a pride, the history that is mine to own, to earn, and to live off. So it gives me pride to do that. And I'm happy they missed out on those things. I mean, I'm sure many people thought of mapping the world for others to see, but the Google beat it to it. And we'd like to be like that, who sort of hit on a simple idea and expanded it further. And this cloth is an all-weather cloth.
Right.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
we are seriously thinking of taking it further. But we've already done corduroy, and we are very proud of it. And I'm a great fan of corduroy material. And to even realize that we can make corduroy or khadi gave me goosebumps.
Are you a
I mean, very corduroy bumps. Sorry.
Are you a hands-on entrepreneur in the sense, do you get deeply involved with both the fragrances and the fashion, the design part of it?
See, good businessmen are visionaries. Good visionaries may not be good businessmen.
Right.
So great vision may not make a great business, but a synergy of it could.
Right.
And I'm proud, happy to have found Mr. Nick Patel, because he adds that kind of power to that vision.
Right. You know, I have a colleague, journalistic colleague, Hemant Brahmbhatt, who might have a question. And after that, I have just 3-4, if you don't mind.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Hassan. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, why choose only khadi business like a perfume and khadi? So, why don't you more in the movie business?
I beg your pardon?
Why don't you get into more movie business? Like nowadays, there is so many OTT business and other businesses. Why you choose other khadi and perfume business?
Oh, well, that's a question they would have asked Mr. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi also. When your father sent you to inner temple to study, to become a barrister, what are you doing with this nonsense with fighting for Africans? What is your reason to start this Congress, be part of this Congress party and make a difference? Why freedom movement? You're born into a mercantile family and you were educated to be a lawyer. You never used any of those things. Why would you want to go into this? That is individual will and liberty.
Right.
And I'm using it.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Thank
looking
you.
at just a couple of your career-related questions I'm very curious about. Like we discussed, it's your 62nd year. You began in 1960, around little before 1960, as a child. Is there a muscle memory that gets built into you as an actor, having done it for so long? And does it restrict you or does it help you?
Muscle memory is great meat for mimics. They'll chew you up. If you are going to live on muscle memory, mimics will chew you up because they'll know every muscle movement and they'll mimic it. It is memory that's good for actors, and genuine, honest memory, which they are kind to replicate. Brando is Brando not because he's a brand, because he's an honest man who came out with his ideas. And then there's a time when people don't want to look at it anymore. But the ideas he put forward still lives on. And that is the brand.
Right.
And that's a brand I used, and I'm now creating my own brand.
You know, the purpose of my asking you that question was because whether or not one likes it, body does what the body does, right? So how have you so successfully managed to fight that aspect of your careers? And
Which one?
The muscle memory part. There are things which
No. Muscle memory is involuntary, and it will happen whether you like it or not.
Right.
Taking control as an actor is another neurotic business, as Brando calls it.
Indeed. Yeah. Once again, looking at your very long and distinguished career, from acting to directing, from writing to composing, and from producing to even makeup, was the progression from the one to the other organic or calibrated?
I would say that it's a travel, it's a journey. So let's settle for organic, because I wouldn't like to put any other new word to it, because organic seems suitable for now. But in my travel, I didn't want to touch these milestones. They just passed me by.
Okay.
I was surprised when they did pass me by, because I was traveling at great speed thanks to applause and my gurus and teachers. I was pushed head first at vision, which was also mine, but also theirs. Cinema is the most democratic art, and I'm glad to be part of that art. And that's why I cannot talk of myself alone. I'll have to talk of so many people who made me do that. And there's nothing called strategy in my life. It's all vision and emotion.
Right. Your hugely successful Hindi outing, Ek Duje Ke Liye, is celebrating its 40th year this year. It established you as a major presence in Hindi cinema almost instantly. Curiously, though, you've been a rather hesitant presence in Hindi cinema. Why is it that people are wondering that somebody of your caliber?
It's so easy to talk about it now, because it's in hindsight. That's because I never considered cinema to be part of the underworld. I thought this is art, and it should operate independent of kings,
Right,
underworld, and other influences. So I didn't want to be there. That's one of the reasons why I played perhaps Nayakan.
right. No.
Because it's, not to say anything bad about Varadaraja Mudaliar, he had nothing to do with films. I'm talking about what did exist in Bombay. I don't know how subcutaneous it is now, but I'd like to keep away from it. I'm an artist, and now I'm a politician.
Right.
So I'll pounce upon those things that will exploit my people.
That's a damning indictment of what you just said, especially the underworld connection. It has been pretty prominent. It's been written about. Everybody knows it. I don't know the extent of it now because there's been a great deal of corporatization of in the cinema industry. But I'm sure there is still some influence.
I'm sure there is, but now I have armed myself with the will of the people. I'm a politician.
Right.
I'm coming back.
Yeah.
I'm coming back into meeting people of India
Right.
across barrier of language and ethnicity. I'm coming out to reach out to them. And this is a sign that I want to embrace all.
Right. Yeah, this is a perfect segue to my last two questions. How has been your experience so far as the founder of a political party, as well as generally within the state and national politics?
Well, an honest man has to suffer a little more. A taxpayer suffers a little more than the tax evader. I'm willing to do the suffering, but even the Christian prayer says, suffer me to come to thee. I will go to the people, and suffering doesn't matter.
Right.
And I consider it to be suffering imposed on me by corrupt politicians.
Right.
And I just want to sow the seed of democracy into people's mind. They have to participate in politics. That's why even business can have politics mingled in it, like House of Khada.
And are you consciously or subconsciously channeling the most obvious influence in your life apart from your father? I'm talking about Mr. Gandhi. How are you channeling it through your political outing?
Absolutely. There isn't a day we don't talk about Mr. Gandhi. Why I say Gandhi is not because he's inimitable.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gandhi is imitable. Do you have the guts? It's a challenge I throw to my fellow Indians. Gandhi is imitable, and India can produce many more Gandhis. I am an aspiring one.
That's very well put, Mr. Hassan. It's quite remarkable. Would you, and to let you go, would you care to talk a bit about your plans for the M&M nationally?
I might be a Tamilian, a Dravidian, whatever you call it, but we built this nation.
Right.
It happened by accident because we were split into many kingdoms. For mercantile reason, the British sort of stitched it together with Indian railways. Thanks for the stitch in time, which has saved 9. We are now a country, and we have to pursue this dream instead of being secessionists.
Right.
And I will be national. I am national. I am part of the national politics. And a pebble into the pond will reach the other shore.
Right.
So you cannot just keep me to this side of the pond.
And to end it on a somewhat of a tangential note, I've always been curious, and I think you've talked about it, your name. Do I take it, one can interpret it to mean a sort of a smiling lotus?
Yes. My father, when I was a child, I came back complaining that my Hindu friends are asking me, my name sounds queer because it sounds like a Muslim.
Right.
So what do I say? My father just smiled and said, just say, could be. I said, I can't because I'm not. So you say that I named you. So what if they mistake me to be a Muslim? So that's fine. That's the family that I was born into. That's why I'm a proud Indian. And that's what I'd like my grandchildren to be. Proud of being an Indian. Doesn't matter. Caste and community and
Right.
the Chaturvarna doesn't matter. That's the dream of Gandhi. That's the dream of Tilak Saab, Ambedkar Saab, and now me. Whether I am of the same ilk or not doesn't matter. But I come down that line.
On that ground note, Mr. Hassan, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been riveting for me. Hopefully, when you're in Chicago next, it would be an absolute pleasure to meet you, and we'll do a rather broader, more substantive conversation.
Absolutely.
With you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. And Mr. Patel and Hemant, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.